Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk to you guys about something I've been getting a lot of questions about, and that is Minnie Maud in recovery. Those of you who don't know already, my name is Zoe. I am 18 years old and I make videos based on encompassing eating disorder recovery, self-love, body positivity, and living a plant-based kind of lifestyle. And I am very happy for us to be able to connect on this kind of platform and to be able to be talking to you. And with that being said, let's get into what I am about to say. I have notes on my laptop screen, which is sitting in front of me, so I will be referring to that throughout the video. Just wanted to let you guys know that I'm constantly like glaring down if you wonder why. I would say that I have been in recovery since November of 2016 from my eating disorder, and it has been a roller coaster filled with like ups and downs and corkscrews and everything. And something that I did my first round of recovery from 2016 to 2017 was the Minnie Maud method. The Minnie Maud method is also known as the homeodynamic recovery method, and the formulation of this method was inspired by the experiment conducted in the 1940s by Dr. Ansel Keys. It is also known as the Minnesota starvation experiment, and that was where a group of men basically starved themselves in a controlled environment, and the whole point was to see the toll starvation takes on the human body and the brain. And it was very evident and important in the discovery on how refeeding works in the human body, and it has since then been applied to how refeeding works in regards to eating disorder recovery. Basically, the formulation of the homeodynamic recovery method, or the Minnie Maud method, has three basic pillars, and they call it pillars, but I would call it the 3 R's of recovery, and that is refeeding, restoration, and resting. And I think I said those out of order. It's refeeding, resting, and restoration. But basically, refeeding your body, resting, no exercise, and restoration, which in regards to restoring not only your physical body systems and organs, but also restoring your mental mindset through therapy such as like CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and DBT, dialectic behavioral therapy. And I can make a whole other video on those, but that's just the basics. I'm only going to touch briefly on each and every one of them, but mostly the refeeding part, because that's kind of what the Minnie Maud really encompasses. Before I get into the whole spiel of the video, I just wanted to make a quick disclaimer and say that I'm not a doctor or a registered dietitian. I would hope to be maybe one day, but as of right now I'm not. And the information I have gathered is from credible sources. I will leave the links to them down in the description below, but I am speaking also from my own experience, and if you're in recovery, I would really highly suggest you get a professional team such as a therapist and a dietitian and just a whole kind of team to work with as you go through this process. And also take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because although it is very important and it is very evident that this advice can help you, everyone's recovery is also very different, so what works for me might not always work out the same exact way for you. To start off, I would say something that always spiked my anxiety when it came to stepping into the field of recovery was the fact that I could no longer get away with eating 1,000 or 2,000 calories a day. And that's because the guidelines for Minnie Maud, as I'll get into it, is the minimum is at least 2,500 a day. And it's evident that a lot of the reported calorie intakes of the average man and woman are underestimates to what they actually consume. And what scientists have found is that many people underestimate their intake to about 1/3 or 1/4 of what their actual intake is. So that being said, when you look at cereal boxes or any nutrition label and it says that based on a 2,000 calorie daily diet, you might want to add like 500 calories to that, because 2,000 calories is not the average intake for any man or woman. And I will explain that as we further go through this video. I would say this perceived caloric intake that's supposedly the average is also so low because we live in a society that praises thinness, that idealizes the idea of being thin as the validator for you being accepted and you getting to thrive in the world and make money and be famous and be loved by this person, be liked by that person, and all that kinds of stuff. And that causes people to correlate thinness with lower caloric intake. And that tends to be why many people probably underestimate as well, is because if they said their true value, then they might fear that they won't be accepted as much, because what's valued is thinness, and what comes with thinness is a lower caloric intake. Not sure if that made sense, but if it did not, I would be happy to answer any questions you have in the comments below. So, knowing all of that, let's get into the guidelines. For the guidelines, I would recommend that you stick strictly to the guidelines. I'm not saying that this is a black or white mindset. I'm just saying that it is very important to develop a set routine when it comes to your whole recovery plan. You're trying to get your body to trust you again, and if you're constantly going back and forth, your body's not going to trust you, because it's going to be like, what's going on? So that being said, for an adult female, now they categorize adults as being 25 and older. So if you're an adult female, 25 and older, and you're between the heights of 5 feet and 5'8", it is recommended that you at least have 2,500 calories a day, minimum. And I will briefly talk about minimums in one moment after I read the guidelines. So for an adult male, it is between the heights of 5'4" and 6 foot, and their minimum is about 3,000 calories a day. For females, for adolescent females, this is this isn't really between the ages, it's anything below 25 or younger, is at least 3,000 calories a day. And that's also with the height of 5 foot to 5'8". And for adolescent males, 25 or younger, between the heights of 5'4" and 6 foot, their average needs to be at least their minimum needs to be at least 3,500 calories a day. And what I was going to say is you need to make sure that you are eating more than the minimum, because that's exactly what it is. It's a minimum. It's not a max. Like, it's not, okay, you've hit 2,500 calories, you're done for the day. That's the lowest you need to eat. No. The whole point of the minimum is that's where you have to be to at least get your body to start functioning properly and to start repairing what needs to be done. There's so much more that needs to be done once you commit to eating again, and giving your body the bare minimum isn't going to help you in the long run. In regards to height adjustments, if your height falls above or below the stated guidelines for either gender, it is recommended that you add at least 200 calories to the minimum. And I would only say add 200 if you are higher in height, but if you're lower in the height requirements, I would say to not worry about changing it. Now again, I'm not a registered dietitian, I'm not a doctor, but from experience, I would say that subtracting 200 calories if you're shorter isn't really going to do anything, because you need more food anyway. So if anything, if you're taller, you need to make sure you are getting the actual energy you need, because you need more energy than the required energy. Whereas if you're shorter, it's like taking 200 isn't really going to do anything, because you're going to need to eat more anyway. So there's no real point, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. I would bring it up with a dietitian if you were considering that. Also, in my recovery, I found counting calories really triggering, at least, because that's how my whole eating disorder started, was counting calories, needing to lose weight, all that kinds of stuff. And I know for a lot of people in recovery, it can be really triggering, knowing that you're going from eating so little to so much, and the counting can just kind of be like mocking for your eating disorder. So I would say that it's very helpful to be working with a dietitian or a nutritionist in this case. And it could also be beneficial to work with a family member or have a family member talk to you through it and kind of lay out a plan with you and make sure you're eating what you need to be eating, and they can keep track of your eating if they're willing to, and all you have to do is just eat. And I found this very helpful with my mom. I developed a plan. I made like a format with breakfast, morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner, night snack, and I laid out different options for me to have for dinner. I laid out how much protein, how much, all that kinds of stuff, and I made different meals that were each balanced, and I gave it to her, and I had her check off everything every time I ate it, or every time I ate my meal, just to make sure I was eating what I needed to be eating. And sometimes when it wasn't as triggering for me anymore, I just started keeping track myself, and that was perfectly fine. But if it is triggering to you, I would totally recommend getting help, or at least talking to someone about it to help keep you accountable and stuff like that. When I was recovering from 2016 to 2017, I was doing the Minnie Maud method straight up, completely by myself, with the help of my mom, of course, and I was able to fully weight restore and get back to my set point weight, and I gained my period for like 2 months before I ended up relapsing and having to go through the whole process all over again. Now, I didn't go through my second time around when I was recovering in the summer of 2018 in treatment. I didn't do Minnie Maud directly, but I'm more than 100% sure I did it indirectly through working with a dietitian, because we did it through exchanges, so I wasn't strictly counting calories. I was counting I was going by guidelines and exchanges, so that was different. But at the end of the day, I have no doubt in my mind that it probably added up to the same amount. And in my experience, I found going by guidelines and exchanges much easier than going by calories. So that's also something you could look into. Also want to note that going from eating practically nothing to eating 3,500 plus calories is a lot of work, and it can also be a shock to the body in some cases. So what I would recommend is what I did when I was starting the Minnie Maud method for the first time, was I increased to about 2,200 calories a day, and then about 2 days later I worked to 2,500, and then from 2,500 to 2,700, and then from 2,700 to 3,000, and then 3,000 above. And it just broke it up into little increments, so it wasn't just a complete shock to my body that, whoa, I'm getting all this food, like, what am I supposed to do? So that is something I would highly suggest as well. Again, I am not a doctor or a dietitian, so I cannot be there to tell you what is right and what is wrong, but I do know that recovery is a process and it is not one size fits all. So if what works for me might not work for you, or it might work for both of us, so you never know. I am planning on addressing this in a future video, but I wanted to quickly touch on this because the Minnie Maud method and extreme hunger go hand in hand. And I just wanted to give you some reassurance when it comes to extreme hunger in the Minnie Maud method kind of thing. So in simple terms, extreme hunger might occur, or is more than likely going to occur. I have yet to meet someone that has not gone through extreme hunger in recovery, but extreme hunger is something that happens during the refeeding process when your body is at its peak in energy absorption. And that is because your body is burning through all of the food you are taking in faster than you can actually put it in your body. And that's due to the fact that your body has so much repair to do once you start eating more and it realizes, oh hey, I'm actually getting food. It puts all that food towards healing your organs, building up your tissue, because all those parts of your body were broken down because your body, when you were starving it, was resorting to eating those parts of you, was basically cannibalizing your own body in order to survive because you weren't giving it the energy it needed. And it sounds kind of scary, but I kind of actually used that as my motivation to be comfortable with eating more, because I don't want my body to feel like it needs to cannibalize on itself. So I'm gonna give it the nourishment it needs, even if it makes me feel uncomfortable. It's better than eating my own tissue, because obviously, I don't think anyone would want to eat tissue if you put it on a plate and had them eat it. So wouldn't want that to be happening in my body. Therefore, your body is dedicating all of that energy you're giving it to rebuilding those tissues and organs, and it needs even more energy. So on top of that, it can also help you with your day-to-day functions as well. Therefore, you're gonna need a lot of food. You will feel overly hungry, basically, and that's just a case of feeling gut full but body empty, where your body needs so much energy but your stomach can only hold so much. And in my experience, just dealing with that takes time and patience. There will be bloating, there might be swelling, but know that it will pass, that it's not going to stay that way. And I feel like me and so many other people in the recovery community that are doing better and that are making efforts to recover, they're also living examples that it's not the end of the world and that it's just a part of recovery. And once you move from that part, you'll realize that too. I also wanted to quickly touch on going back to the Minnesota starvation experiment, and that was conducted again by Dr. Ansel Keys during World War II. And the reason it was conducted was because people were starving, literally, in World War II because of the rations and because there wasn't enough food to give out to people. So they were trying to understand how much food could they afford to restrict people from in order for them not to go completely insane, as well as to understand how the refeeding process in humans works and how it changes, because after World War II, people were no longer like as starving as they were before. So it was understanding that whole process that people were going through after the war as well. And they basically took away two important conclusions, and that was one, that the human brain does poorly on starvation when it's starved, and two, excess food intake will be required beyond the pre-starvation amounts in order to achieve homeostasis in the body and ultimate sanity as well. And therefore, that is why I cannot stress enough that in accordance to the Minnie Maud guidelines, you go above the minimums, because the minimums are just the minimums. That's just baseline. What you need is to eat above in order for your body to maintain full homeostasis and to be happy and healthy and good. I said this already. But to reach remission, you have to allow the body to process and what you give it, and give it as much energy as you can until it reaches a point that it sees fit for itself. And you might not approve of that body, but you're gonna have to choose at that point between happy and struggling with food. And I would say looking a little different but being healthy is way better than being stick thin and miserable. It's also completely normal because recovery will naturally involve a temporarily overshoot of your natural set point in order to fully repair everything that has been damaged through starvation until it naturally levels out at its set point. And that can sometimes take up to a year or more. So it does require a lot of patience. And if there's one thing I can give you for a piece of advice from my own experience, I wish I would have waited and had patience with myself, because that's what led to my relapse in 2017. I didn't have patience to adjust to the body that I ended up with when I was weight restored. And that caused me to turn to begin restricting again and over-exercising, and that made me lose my period again. And I'm still working now to get it back. And that is something that I know a lot of people go through. And I needed to be showing myself compassion and repeating to myself that it would pass rather than give in to the restriction and the overexercising. And that's what I want you to know, is that being weight restored isn't always going to be comfortable, at least not at first, but being happy isn't dependent on your weight. I was not happy at my lowest. I was miserable and I was consumed with my eating disorder. And sure, I'm heavier now, and I'm still not 100% happy either. So what's to say that a weight is able to dictate whether you're happy or not? But I can tell you that a healthy weight, even though it might not be physically what you want, you're able to take so much more fun experiences away than you would have been able to if you were at a really low weight and not be able to do anything. I also had thought, since I got, as I mentioned before, I had got my mini period for about 2 months when I recovered in 2016, and I thought I could begin to eat intuitively. So, and as you can see, that was completely wrong. I should have never done that. I'm now making an effort to get back my period, and I could make a whole other video if you guys are interested on like getting back your period and stuff, but I have yet to get back my period like consecutively. I have gotten it, but it's been extremely irregular. I haven't gotten it since December. So, and that kind of makes kind of a little bit of sense because I did have a minor relapse within these past couple of months. So as of my recent relapse, I have developed a recovery plan for myself, and I have begun to again increase my intake and start being regular with what I'm eating and following the Minnie Maud guidelines as well. I have a link in the description box below, but Ladle by Ladle, she has a very good video on transitioning from Minnie Maud method to intuitive eating and her experience as well. She also goes into something I really found I took away from her video, is that when you transition from the Minnie Maud guidelines to intuitive eating, it's not really that big of a difference. It's literally just taking the label off and replacing it with intuitive eating. Because in all honesty, once your body gets used to the Minnie Maud guidelines, it's rarely going to change. So when you transition to intuitive eating, it's not like your body is going to suddenly crave 1,000 calories less than what it was actually eating. That's kind of what I took away from it, and I found that very interesting. I would definitely recommend going and giving that video a view. But yeah, I will definitely leave a link in the description below. I would definitely not suggest transitioning to intuitive eating right now if you're watching this video, because the whole point is to start the Minnie Maud method, not to just start it for a week and then go off it and go to intuitive eating, because that's not how it works. I want you guys to quickly know that we are approaching the end of this video. You are approaching the ride to recovery. Well, no. You are approaching this informational roller coaster that it has been. Me spewing information at you that's valuable, that I hope you take. And I want you to know that I'm fighting alongside of you in this battle. I am currently trying to do Minnie Maud method myself, but again, through guidelines and stuff, following my old meal plan when I was in treatment. And I want you to know that you're not alone. This struggle, this adventure you're about to embark on is such a challenge, and it is hard and it is scary, but it is worth it. And I honestly don't know where I would be if I stayed the me I was in 2016 and didn't choose recovery and wasn't exposed to this kind of recovery community. I would probably still be stuck there or something worse, and I am very grateful nevertheless for how far I've come. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you all got something out of it and found it helpful. I honestly really enjoyed doing this research for you guys. I actually felt like so smart. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and my thumbs will appreciate you. If you are not subscribed already, be sure to click the subscription box below and the bell icon so you know when I post videos next. Other than that, I thank you guys so much again for watching. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and just know that you are a warrior and that you are going to get through this. We'll see you all in the next video.